Okay. Yeah, well, I just got really fucking awkward because I got too into my head about it.
It happens so easily. Here we go. It's awkward. I'm like, I don't know if I'm talking to you or if I'm talking to the episode right now. That's where my head like got awkward. I'm like,
Yes.
am I talking directly to Tiff or is this something I'm editing into the episode?
We
ASMR.
miss you both. Oh, sorry, I sang over your ASMR.
No, it's okay. Well, I went through the drive shoot. Future Natalie, cut the last 30 seconds. When we're angry. I said when we're angry.
Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Talk About Traumatized. Tiff and Natalie here. No, you're good.
I guess I'll just talk to the episode.
Yeah.
Because it's what because I realized last time that we filmed, because we had filmed so many in-between episodes, we never addressed why Gigi wasn't in the last episode. And now today there's just two of us. So I did just want to let the audience know Reese and Gigi are still a part of the podcast. We are all very, very busy people. Reese has 2 daughters. They both got sick last night, which is why they are not here. And Gigi is just the busiest person I've ever met in my life. Yes. Her family owns horses. They do a lot with them. She is constantly going. She is prepping for a wedding right now. So once she is home in Georgia, I think she is planning on being back with us. Unfortunately, she is just very busy with where she's at in life. Yeah. But we miss them both so much. I promise they will be back as soon as they can. But yeah, I just wanted to say that because when I was editing the last episode, I was like, man, Gigi probably feels bad, but it's like we said it in the episodes before, and I think we just didn't.
I was thinking about that.
Any in betweens, like the parts where her hands were up, we were talking about Gigi, but like of the actual episode moments, we weren't. So I was like, man, I just felt a little bad.
But no, 100%.
They are loved dearly. They will be back with us. They just can't today. The lady. Oh my god. When I went to pick up my Dunkin', I went through the drive-through, and it was a new lady, or a lady I'd never seen before, but she was like, I don't know, like a 40 or 50-year-old Latina lady, and she said, have a great day, beautiful. And I was like, oh, I'm about to now.
I love that.
Yeah. I came home and got ready after. Like, I was not ready. I was like, oh, I feel really good now. Like, thank you. And it was funny because as I was driving away, I was literally immediately, I was like, if a man would have said that to me, it would not have made me feel good.
Whole day ruined.
It was
whole day ruined. Yes.
And I guess not to like tell men not to compliment women. I think it just depends on the situation. And she made me feel good. But yeah. I literally immediately was like, if a man would have said that to me like that, I would not have felt good.
For me, it's like how they do it, right? Like if it's just like a kind of like a second nature, hey, have a good day, beautiful, goodbye. Where's the have a good day, beautiful? And I'm like, ew, no.
Exactly. Context is key.
Yeah. And read the room, bro. If she's already having a bad day, chances are that's not going to make her day better.
No.
At least for me.
No, it is not. Did you want to do the trigger warning before we, I guess, like get into like
sure
episode? Because I know we could just talk, but I'm like, we should probably have that right at the beginning.
Yes. Okay. So trigger warning, if you've never seen us before, we do talk about heavy topics here. Sexual assault is on the menu every single time that we meet, pretty much. Sometimes we talk about suicidal ideation, talk about domestic violence, physical violence, stuff like that. So if those things are things that you can't really stomach or are too heavy for you or may trigger you, maybe just hop onto a different podcast or get somewhere where you feel safe to listen to something like that. So
don't forget to give us a like first.
Yes, and subscribe.
Yeah, you could do that as well. It causes you no harm.
No,
it literally only helps us.
Yes.
So again, we have gathered you all here today. Tiff, how was your week?
My week okay. I mean, I don't feel like it was a great week, but it also wasn't an awful week. So, had its ups and downs as life be doing. Um, but yeah, nothing really stands out too much. I did find this thing that I was going to share today. And have you ever heard of a glimmer?
Yes, it's you know what? Explain it because I've heard of it, but my brain is
Uh-huh.
absolutely fumbling.
Sure. So a glimmer is the opposite of a trigger, right? So, yes. So a glimmer is something that happens in your day that makes you feel happiness or joy, as opposed to being triggered by something that's bad. So the theory is that if you, which actually makes sense from a psychological standpoint, if you go out of your way to try to find glimmers in your day, you'll actually be a lot happier as a person. And I'll have a lot more positive outlook. Because psychologically, as humans, we tend to only focus on the negative things. We have to actively look for those positive things. So I think that's something I'm going to try to start implementing is looking for glimmers on the daily.
So Tiff, you had time to think.
Okay.
What was a glimmer in your week?
Okay, so I take care of my youngest niece when they're here. We have them like every other week. And basically, I take care of her, taking her to school, getting her ready, feeding her breakfast and stuff. And I guess something that was really joyful for me this week was we made colored pancakes every day this week. Or this last week, and we put fruit in them. So like she was like, Nini, can we make purple pancakes? And I was like, sure. And she was like, can we put blueberries in them? And I was like, yeah, we can.
That's amazing.
And then the next day we made strawberry pancakes that were pink. And then we made she wanted to mix red and blue to make her own purple. And then we put blueberries and strawberries in it.
I love that so much.
Yes.
That is such a glimmer. Like that really is such a glimmer.
So my youngest niece and I have literally been like this since I moved down here. That's my child, not biological, obviously, but she's my baby. But yeah, what about you?
She's adorable. I literally love her. I love both of them.
Yeah.
They're literal genius babies.
Yes. Yes.
I guess I'll go into my week 1st. I had a really relatively good week. I mean, obviously, per usual, my emotions were all over the place. But in terms of like reflecting back on my week, it was pretty awesome. I definitely have been feeling very overwhelmed just with trying to find balance in my life, especially with the stomach bug and then like us trying to sort out how to film. It definitely just was like kicking my butt for a little bit there because I feel like I can't if I'm focusing on one thing, that means I'm taking my focus away from something else. And for me, that thing has been school. Because I'm working in the women's center 3 days of the week, and then the 2 days after that are the weekends, so I have chance both those days. And anyone who is literally around small children knows that you cannot get anything done when you're around the small children. So I can't get my homework caught up on until he's down for a nap. Fortunately, he still takes naps. And so I was able to get caught back up, but I'm in like microeconomics. I know I was texting you about it too.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm passing the class just fine, but when midterms hit, that will be the test of my life. My goal this week is to maybe get some homework done tonight and to like really find some good studying stuff because I need to prep for these midterms so bad. It's not even funny. It's worth 250 points, Tiffany. I'm like, if I do bad, it will be bad to my overall like score in the class. And so that's been stressing me out a little bit. But over this last weekend, I attended like my first school event that was like outside of my like typical women's center hours.
Yeah.
So I went to Ebony Ball and that was pretty fun. I felt very out of place as somebody who like isn't super close with anyone on campus. Like, yes, I have friends. Yes, I've met people, but I'm not super close with anyone. And I didn't like really coordinate with anybody that I was going. So like I got there and I was like, I don't even know where to sit right now. But I love seeing the stuff off campus. every time I go to an event, I want to cry at certain points. It's one of those things where I so badly wanted these experiences like right out of high school. And
Yep.
that didn't happen. And that's okay that that didn't happen. But experiencing them now just like does something to my brain every time where it's just like, I think I'm crying because I'm grieving a little bit because I know like Natalie 4 or 5 years ago, like would have thrived in this environment. Like absolutely would have been thriving. And it's not that I'm not thriving, it's that I feel out of place in a place where 5 years ago I would have felt in place.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not a bad trigger. I was talking about it recently with my boss, the women's center. I'm like, it's not bad that it's triggering. It honestly just shows me that there's a wound there. And I am healing that, right? Like I am on campus now. I am going to the events. I am making connections. It's just grievance because of everything that happened in that time instead of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to be doing. And so it was very good. Like I said, though, every time I go to these events, like literally we had the high school mixer a couple weeks ago. I had to leave because I couldn't stop crying because like I'm literally like facing these 18-year-olds and I see like all the joy and the hope and the like stuff in their eyes. And I so vividly remember feeling that way. I remember going to the mixers. I remember being excited about these things. And something about it every time just like it touches that wound in me, like that girl who just so badly spent her whole life wanting to go to college and then wasn't able to. And then when I say I feel like the world just shit and shit and shit on me over the course of those few years. And then somehow, right? And then like somehow in the mix of it, I somehow course corrected, am at school, but now I have a baby. Now I'm a little bit older. And it's just, it's weird. It's strange. It's good. It is not bad, but it is triggering. And I feel it almost every single week in one way or the other. But I feel very happy with where I'm at, and I feel like I'm on the right path. It just doesn't take those triggers away. But yeah, so I went to the Ebony Ball on Saturday. That was super awesome. And then on Sunday, I took Chance out for a picnic in the morning, and we really did just have such a good time. So I've been training for a 5K, and I didn't really train at all last week. I've really been like I said, since like being super busy and everything like that, it is like the first thing I'm like, we're just gonna push that off the schedule right now. But I was like, Sunday, I was like, oh my god, it's such a beautiful day. Like, let me put this kid in the stroller and let's like try to do this run. I forgot the part where strollers weigh stuff, and that adding a stroller into the mix makes things 20 times harder. I didn't think it did. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. All you jogging moms, I underestimated you completely. I was wrong. It was so hard, Tiff. I started running, and because I couldn't move my arms, it wasn't so much that the stroller was there. It was the inability to pump my arms that was killing me. I was like, who knew you needed to pump? Because I need to pump. When I'm running, I need to pump. And I couldn't pump. And I was struggling. I mean, I ran some, but I was not running as much as I was supposed to.
Well, I was gonna suggest you look and see if you can find like a used or cheap one of those jogging strollers.
We have a jogger stroller.
That's what I was gonna say. It doesn't matter if it's the pump in the arms thing that doesn't work. You still can't do that.
Exactly. I knew. So Josh's sister had just had a baby whenever we found out we were pregnant. And there was at one point they were talking about like their biggest regret was not buying a jogging stroller. Like they got some fancy stroller and all this stuff, and they were like, we wish we would have just bought the jogger stroller. And so when I like added things to my what is it called, like wish list, what is
the baby registry?
The registry, yes, the registry. I knew I wanted a jogger stroller, and so I put that on there, and Josh's grandma got it for us. Thank you.
Yay.
and I really loved it. I have had no complaints with it, but also Chance has not spent as much time in it as I feel like other babies do. I
Yeah.
think a big part of that is that he's an only child, so it's not like we're trying to corral one because we only have so many arms. He likes to be out and
Mm-hmm.
about. He likes to be running around. He likes to
Uh-huh.
hold our hands. I
Uh-huh.
have no issues doing that. So
Uh-huh.
literally, when I say putting him in that stroller was like the first time he's probably been in that stroller since last summer, last August. But he actually really liked it. I thought he would complain more because uh, he hates constraints. Ever since he was in my freaking belly, they put those. I had an anterior placenta, and I honestly just didn't show that much. I think he sat more towards my back than he did
Yeah.
my front,
Uh-huh.
and so I hardly ever felt this kid. When I was pregnant, I literally be like, I'm not pregnant. Like, I'm literally not pregnant. Like, I know they show me that there's a baby in there. I know they show me that there's a heart monitor there, but I'm like, he's not kicking me. He's not doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
I'm not pregnant. But anytime they would put those wraps around my
Uh-huh.
belly, this
Uh-huh.
motherfucker would go crazy. And I mean, like, nuts. He'd start freaking thrashing and shit. And I'm like, oh, there's a baby in there. He
There
does
he
not
is.
like constraints. And to this day, he hates the car seat. He's never
Mm-hmm.
liked the car seat. It's the constraints. That's what
Uh-huh.
pisses him off about it. So
Uh-huh.
I'm really worried about the stroller. But I think there were so many people to look at, and like the in between the running and walking, he was like, "Oh, this is kind of new. This is kind of different." And so we did that first. Then we went and played on the playground, and then we went and had a picnic. It was a good time. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a toddler, so he's literally an asshole, but it's like I enjoy it in a weird
Yeah.
way. There's certain things obviously that aren't fun, but he's just so authentically himself
Uh-huh.
in every regard, and he
Yep.
has absolutely no idea like what the rules are to the world. Sorry, Gigi texted. I was trying to read it, but it's okay. I don't think she'll be able to hop on. I said
Yeah.
asking if she wanted to hop on, but I don't think she'll be able to. But she said her life should be back to normal-ish in about 2 weeks, so she will
That's
be
perfect.
back.
Yeah.
That is perfect. That is perfect. I didn't even think about that because we're not filming
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, dang, that's a bummer. We're gonna miss like 2 more episodes. No, we already, the way we have it set up, that's literally perfect.
Yeah.
I know I felt really bad for her because I had like texted her individually that night where she was talking about her mom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, are you at least home with John? Because she was supposed to be going back to Georgia that day, and apparently things happened where she couldn't go back home to Georgia.
Oh
And
no.
I was like, my girl, like my girl just needs a break.
Yes, she does.
Needs
She
life
does.
to lighten up a little bit.
She does.
Absolutely. So, but I don't want to talk about it too much because I have a feeling she'll probably want to talk about it
Yeah.
here too.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I don't want to take that away from her. But I forgot what. Oh yeah, kid just hates constraints. But that was a fun day. It really was
Yeah.
a fun day. We really we have a kids museum in town that is incredible.
Uh-huh.
It is, first of all, $3. That's how much it costs when I take him. Don't get me wrong, that's because we get certain perks, and because he's under 2, he doesn't cost anything. But when I say it's such an incredible museum, I'm like, I feel so fortunate that like we live in a town that has something like this, because freaking Champaign closed their kids museum.
That is so stupid to me.
I
It's
went
so
there as
stupid.
a kid.
Yeah.
Like it was so much fun. Just a few years ago, I had a big sleepover with my younger sister and like her friends, and we took them there. I think they were like 7 or 8 at the time. They had the time of their life. There's nothing in Champaign anymore for children. And anything that you yeah, it's sad. It's so sad. I don't understand it. I don't know if it's because it's a campus town, but I'm like, they have such a large population. I mean, their population is technically smaller than Springfield's, actually. I think Springfield, outside of Chicago, is the largest city in Illinois. But I don't know if students play into that or not, because I always felt like Champaign was way bigger than Springfield.
You know, I looked up the population of Champaign and Urbana and shit like that the other day because I was trying to. It was that post where I was comparing how many people had died to like the Midwestern cities to maybe try to get it to, you know, register with people, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, I think it's the same everywhere. There's not a lot of stuff for kids to do anywhere these days, I don't think, which sucks.
They're
Like,
shutting down everything.
yeah,
If they
shutting
can't charge
everything.
you for it, they don't want it open.
Or to, because they want to take the money and give it to somebody else. Like in New York, I think it was, where they started closing the libraries on the weekends so they could
On the
increase
weekends when kids aren't in school.
so they can increase their police budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was exactly the reason, but that
That's
happened.
how
And then
Cardi B talked about it in her live stream.
yeah, it's
that
ridiculous.
Was literally, when I say that bitch is aware, first of all, she loves politics. She loves history. I think it's history specifically, but within history, there's a lot of politics.
Mm-hmm.
People underestimate her, and she knows. First of all, she's a Libra. Like, of course, that's her like interests. I don't know. Like, people don't understand this. I know not everyone believes in astrology, but when I say the proof is always in the pudding, the proof is in the pudding.
Yes. So I was on Twitter last night and I saw this post by this girl, and she was basically stating, okay, it was like a call out post. So apparently the night before it was like her 21st birthday. And
I saw this.
Did you see it? Did you see the comments?
No, I didn't like the comments.
That's not a cut. Sorry. That's I can't believe the audacity of people. I was so mad, but I was not in a place to like respond healthily. Not that I always do, but like, I think I screenshotted some of them, and some of them, like you expect.
I'm biting my lip. I'm biting my cheek because I
like,
can feel my anger and anxiety like running up.
So, like, the shitty comments I expect from men because they are men. This one is from a woman, and it says, "No hate and condolences go out to you completely for this to have happened, but do we ever think women put themselves in these positions by being in certain places around certain people or not carrying themselves appropriately?" The header is confusing. Now, what she means by that is, I don't know if you visited the girl's profile, because I did. But her pinned tweet is just a fucking video of her, and she's feeling herself, right? Like, she's like from different angles, just like feeling herself. She felt like a fucking hot bitch, and she was a hot bitch in that video.
People aren't allowed to feel good about themselves.
And so you're gonna take that as maybe you shouldn't do that and you wouldn't be raped. Maybe you shouldn't drink and you shouldn't be, because she got blackout drunk. We have all been blackout drunk.
Why isn't she shaming the man?
Thank you.
I can't.
Like, there were some legitimate concerns, like where people were like, "Hey, you shouldn't post this online because if he does get arrested and does go to trial, he can claim he's not going to get a fair trial because of, like, you know, the attention that it's getting or whatever." Because she posted dude's picture and everything.
I saw that. I didn't go to her profile. I just saw the tweet that she posted. And I didn't read the comments. I just liked it. And I think I avoid those things for that reason, because it makes me very upset.
And it should. Like, it should. Okay, because what human being, okay, I'm sure there are some, but we all go through periods with the drinking, right? You know, when we're young and we're fucking, you know, and that's okay. Like, you shouldn't have to worry about having a good time and getting blackout drunk. And I'm not saying you should go do this every weekend, but getting blackout drunk a time or two is not going to hurt anybody. Okay, except for when you're around. Except for when you're around predators. Okay, and to shame somebody for being physically assaulted, sexually assaulted.
First of all, too, it was her 21st birthday.
Thank you.
Of course she got dressed up. Of course she was drinking. Like,
thank you.
That is a rite of passage that I think majority of at least Americans go through on their 21st birthday. I vividly remember my 21st birthday. It was an awful experience. It was literally the worst time of my life. But we'll save that story for a later day, because I will get into it one day. But also, I think that's why I didn't go further, because I think just based on that tweet, I was already like, triggering content for Natalie.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to see more. And then on top of it, like reading and seeing comments like that, that breaks my heart. To the girl, I hope you feel no shame, because you shouldn't. I hope you have people around you who are supportive. If they're not, get rid of them. And I hope you're finding help, because it's one of those things that, as much as like if you want to like bury the hatchet and pretend like it never happened, it will always impact you, unfortunately. And I think it's better to be getting help now rather than later. I pray to God. I know she said she's already created a police report, so I'm assuming she did a rape kit and stuff
she
like
did.
that.
Yeah.
Then I pray everything goes smoothly and justice is served, and I would visit your local resource shelter. I would try to find counseling. I would just, the sooner you are on top of your healing, the better healing will be.
Yeah.
And I am so sorry that happened to you, because it's a club I wish people didn't keep joining. Yeah, that enrages me. I did see the tweet, and people are awful. Men, stop raping. If a woman is drunk, she cannot consent. If a woman is blackout drunk, she is not consenting. There is no consenting.
No.
There is no gray area there. I'm so sick of people acting like there is a gray area there when there is not.
And, people were bringing up, well, was dude drunk, whatever. If he was drunk, then maybe he shouldn't, like, he wasn't capable of consent or blah, blah. Listen, he was not so drunk that he could not assault this girl, right? And 2, why don't y'all drill into your sons' heads so that it is in their head, whether they are inebriated or not, that you do not have sex with a person without consent?
It is failed parenting. I will die on this hill. It is failed education. It is failed parenting.
Yes.
As a mother to a son, it is one of the utmost pertinent things for me to make sure I teach my son about consent. That I teach my son how to be a good person to women, how to advocate for women. Because it goes beyond just asking for consent. When you are a white man, you inherently have so much privilege in a situation. When you hear dudes making jokes in the locker room, call them out. Because the only way men will stop is if other men call them out. Because a man who rapes is a man who doesn't respect women. He objectifies women. I am an object. 100%. I am not a person you value as a person. I am not a person whose voice you listen to. I am simply an object to you. So what option does that leave? It leaves men. It leaves it up to the men to say something to shitty men. I'm so tired of people being like, well, why didn't you say something? Or all these other fucking things. If a man is raping a woman, he does not respect women as people. I am not seen as a person to that man. My voice does not matter. I can scream from the top of my lungs and it does not make somebody value or respect me.
Nope.
It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy even further, because I look back at my own history and it's just like man after man after man failed miserably in being an advocate and being a supporter and being an ally. And I understand the culture we were raised in did not instill that in people, but you're grown as fuck and you're gonna tell me the God that you believed in or whoever the fuck would condone your behavior? Like,
and like situations like this where you see somebody coming forward and you like, and in a very public way, And then you see the responses that are thrown back at her. This is why we have such an issue with underreporting, okay? Because we come forward and we say that this happened, and you're like, what were you wearing? Maybe you shouldn't get drunk. Where were you? Maybe you shouldn't get drunk. Like,
maybe you should shame the man instead of me. I want to ask men how often they've been drunk in their lives when they say that question.
yeah.
Like, literally, that is my only response to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not allowed to drink because I have to fear men?
Yep.
Like, are you fucking serious? That is the best you could come up with in order to turn this situation on me?
Yeah.
It was her 21st birthday.
Yeah. But this is why. There's like, I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head, though. I know I have them somewhere. Why only like a third of rape cases even get reported to police. And then like only 25% of those actually, lead to an arrest. And only like, it ends up, whatever the math is, it ends up only being like less than 3% of rapists end up spending any time in jail.
Yeah. Because we spend so much time shaming women.
Yeah, 100%.
For men's actions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When we really should just be raising men better.
Yeah.
Hold the standard up higher.
Uh-huh.
Stop making your son feel like some untouchable god, and instead just make your son feel like, be a good person. Like, teach him to be a good person. I don't know why it's so hard. I don't feel like it is that hard. It is the most important thing to me, and I am excited to get the experience that I'm getting to raise a son, because I know I'm not going to raise a shit son.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also because I'm going to be very open and transparent about everything that's happened to me.
Uh-huh.
I think we live in a culture that's like, don't talk about these things. It makes people uncomfortable.
Oh, 100%.
We're going to talk about them because that's the only way to learn and to prevent. That's been such a... Right? Working in the Women's Center, one of the big projects me and my boss considered doing was she had suggested like trying to come up with some preventable measures to stop rape. And I told her, I said, I have gone through what happened to me a million times over in my head. There is nothing I could have done that would have prevented it, because there's nothing I could have done to make a man who views me as an object consider me as a person. There was nothing I could have done that would have changed that. Yes, I could have not gone out that specific night. Do I think it would have stopped it from happening again the next week? No. I lived that experience. I know it would have happened. I felt like, looking back, I'm able to see that there was a target on my back before I ever realized there was a target on my back. Yeah. But at the time, I had no idea. I had no fucking idea. And I was just a young girl who was taught kindness and consideration and never realized what danger looked like until danger had drugged me and literally completely took over my fucking existence. Yep. And so I think we need to stop looking at how can we prevent women from being in these situations, and we need to really start looking at how can we teach men not to put women in these situations. How can we educate men to stop other men? It's stop blaming women. Stop shaming women for a man's issue. I'm so fucking sick of this shit, because it's also one of those things, I can't count the number of times I've had a man after all of this tell me, I would beat him up. Rapists disgust me. Blah, 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 blah. Then why didn't you say anything before? Why didn't you shame the man before he took from me? Like, it literally blows my mind. Like, how do you not see that I don't want action after? I wanted action before, because that was the only thing that was going to stop something. And it comes back to that point where if I'm being objectified, I'm not being viewed as a person. So my voice does not matter. Men, use your privilege. You want to sit there
Yes.
all fucking day long and act like you don't have it. And that
Yep.
shit pisses me off too, because
Uh-huh.
you do.
Yep.
My voice didn't matter and yours did in that situation, and you did nothing with it. So you are at fault, and you should feel bad. And I don't need to hear about how you beat up a rapist. I need to hear about what you're going to be doing to stop it from happening in the future. I cannot listen to one more man talk about how they're going to beat up a rapist who has never done anything to stand up for a woman before it happened. Oh, I'm gonna tussle someone. Like, it gets me so fucking worked up. I'm so tired of it. I cannot tell you Tiffany, how many times I've had to listen to men talk about how they're gonna beat up a rapist. Shame the rapist. Shame them before they rape, because there are signs, there are indications. The way rapists talk about women, the way they objectify them in their conversations with men, there were signs. There were signs, and you ignored them. So don't come to me after it happened and tell me you beat them up.
Especially in this specific case, as it pertains to you. We all know there were signs. We all can imagine how he talked to other men about women, because we know how we talk to women about women. And it was only going to be worse when he talked to men, because the filter's down, right? So I don't want to hear from anybody who knows about that situation that, oh, I would have beat his ass. I would. Okay, one, why didn't you?
Period. Because I was still waiting on that too, honestly, frankly. If you were going to do it, why didn't you do it?
Don't talk about it, be about it, okay? And
be about it.
I only condone violence in certain situations, and this is number one, okay?
No, I'm with you.
But why didn't you? Also, we're in that situation, we were surrounded by people who were supposed to be our friends, right? And nobody thought to say, hey.
Or our bosses?
Or our bosses, and nobody thought to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't hang around with this person. You know?
I know, but I'm going to share my story one day.
Yeah.
And this is not the day, because I am not
exactly.
But I will never forget how the man who raped me got to have a conversation with our boss, but I didn't. Why'd you only listen to one side?
Because he was a man.
Exactly.
Talking to a man.
Exactly. No, exactly. And I understand the type of person that my rapist is. A manipulative bastard.
Yep.
And so I also understand that as much as he was manipulating like me and everyone else in that situation, he was doing that to the people in charge. But you're in charge for a reason. So why didn't you do your job thoroughly?
Didn't they have the alcoholism thing in common, right?
That's what it was.
And he played on it.
He played on it. This is where...
Okay, so...
it's because one of those things, right, where I don't want to completely like get into my story, but I'm also okay like talking about it in blips like this, right? It doesn't bother me, because I know one day, right, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna share the whole truth and everything like that. And I think it's okay to talk about little snippets, because that's the whole point of this, right? To talk about the little things. I know my boss was not a bad person.
No.
We had enough conversation. We had enough time together where I truly, truly, truly know in my deepest of hearts that he was not a bad person.
Not at all.
He was extremely uneducated, extremely misguided, and extremely misogynistic in a way that he probably wasn't even aware of at the time.
Well, it's ingrained in our society.
It is. It's deeply ingrained. So this is actually something like Josh isn't very mad at me, but like whenever I would talk about it and tell him about it, he could not comprehend why I wasn't more mad at my boss. And it's because while I disagree, understood how we got there.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? In almost every situation at that time in my life, I think I've done enough inner reflecting, outer reflecting, going
Mm-hmm.
over. I really feel like I deeply understand how everyone got to the roles they were
Uh-huh.
in. I don't think any of it made it okay,
No.
nor did it make it fair, right? I literally think I just got the brunt end of being a woman in
Mm-hmm.
society.
Yep.
And I got held to different expectations, and I got treated differently because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is. I also kind of feel like right, my boss was the first person I like really fucking freaked out on.
Yeah.
Um, so when I say I think I gave it back to him in a way that I really hope he
Yeah.
learned from,
Yeah.
at least I tell myself he did, because that's what makes me feel better. I did not go out in silence. That's for fucking sure. And yeah, so that just kind of is what it is on that situation. Like I said, sorry today you're not getting the full story, but I quite literally don't have 8 hours to sit down and talk.
Yeah, no.
And I know it will quite literally, whenever we do the episode, right, it's gonna get cut into parts, right? Probably for all of us, because
Yeah.
like I said, when it comes to these subjects, it is never the one night. It is
No.
never ever the one night. It is everything that happened excuse me, I burped. It is everything that happened after that night. And I just feel like I have so much to say on it. And like I said, in therapy, it took me 3 2-hour sessions. And after I left, I'm like, oh my God, and I remember this. And I remember this. And I
Yeah.
remember this. So we
There's
will get into that one day. This story, I guess, was just very personal, also
Mhm.
because I very heavily understand and relate to
Uh-huh.
the girl, which is why my heart goes out to her so much. Ignore your comments. I would turn them off if I were
Yeah.
you.
I
When I
mean,
say tolerate no bullshit, tolerate no bullshit, because you know
mhm.
your truth and no one gets to take that from you.
Yep.
And I'm glad you were able to report, and I pray
Mhm.
everything goes in your favor, because it should. Because we really need to be doing something about this rapist epidemic, and shaming women clearly isn't doing anything about it,
No,
because women were never the problem.
it's actually the opposite of helpful.
Yeah,
So,
literally.
um, going back to what you said about, trauma and it not just affecting the one night, like it's like a whole encompassing, like holistic, I don't know if that's the right word, but experience. So
Whole
there's
experience,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Maybe not holistic, but the whole experience.
so I sent you the picture of that book that I just bought. It's
Mm-hmm.
by Gabor Mate. He's a oh god, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm pretty sure he was a Holocaust survivor. Like he was an infant when it was going
Mm-hmm.
on. And he is a doctor, and he has um focused a lot on trauma and like healing from trauma, and he does a lot with addiction and stuff like that. But one of the quotes he says is like trauma isn't the thing that happened. Trauma is what happens inside of you and as a response to the thing that happened, right? And
Yes.
so like when you think of trauma, most people think of like that specific incident, but it's not even the incident. I mean, obviously it's the incident, but it's what
Yeah.
happens to you in response to that. Like what happens in your body, what happens in your mind is really where it lies. So yeah, I mean, you can't just focus on the day that it happened at all. You have to focus on like your response to that, because that's where the issues lie.
Mm-hmm. That's why, going also back to why I'm like, get help now.
Yeah.
Because if you're not getting help, it's the way trauma tends
Mm-hmm.
to cycle itself within you
Mm-hmm.
until you focus on it. That's why
Mm-hmm.
right, it's literally, I was just reading a thing about PTSD, but the people who suffer from PTSD are people who tend to have not gotten help right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People who get help right away after something horrible or big happens tend to be able to work through it,
Mm-hmm.
and it impacts their life less.
Well, yeah.
I shouldn't say impacts their life less. I'm trying to find a good way. the negative impacts that it has in their life is lessened.
Yeah.
Does that make
So,
sense?
because in my experience, obviously every experience is different, but like, so you experience the trauma and you don't get help, and that leaves you unhealed, and you open yourself up to experience more trauma, basically. So like, if you're sexually assaulted as a child, that fucks you up in a ton of different ways, and then you end up putting yourself in situations where it just compounds it. So you put yourself in dangerous situations to be re-victimized, and that adds on to the trauma. And then you put yourself, don't get help for the mental aspects of what happened from the original trauma, and that just gets compounded day by day, week by week.
PTSD.
Exactly,
Compounding
100%.
trauma.
It's the complexity of it all. So I would agree, getting help as soon as you can is ultimately just going to be so much better for you in the long run. Obviously, not everybody's able to do that, but as soon as you can, even if it's weeks, months, even if it's a year later, but the sooner that you start getting help, the better.
Yeah, I just want to plug sexual assault centers.
Yes.
If you were assaulted, if you know somebody who was assaulted, if anybody has come to you and been like, hey, I think I might have been raped, look up your local sexual assault center. There is no place that is going to be better geared towards getting you help. Most places can get you into therapy free of charge. Most places have group therapy. I know we're struggling with funding issues and stuff like that, but when I say make that your first stop, make that the place you go, because there are no people better geared towards helping sexual assault survivors than the ones who are literally working in these centers. Just reach out, even if it's a call, like just call and see if somebody can help you. You're not right. It is scary to go to the police because you don't know how people are going to respond. It is scary to go to outsiders because you don't know how they're going to respond. It's scary to go to your boss. It's scary to go to your friends. People at the centers are going to be receptive to you, and they're going to try to figure out how to best help you. And they understand that every situation is different, right? Tiff, me and you, we went there years after our assault, and they were still able to help us. It doesn't have to be going to the police. It doesn't have to be doing things like that. It's just a matter of going somewhere where you are going to be heard and listened to. You are not going to get shamed. You are not going to get denied. You are not going to run into all those mixed signals that you do when you talk to people who haven't been trained professionally on how to help victims and survivors. So that's my little plug for the day. Like, reach out to your sexual assault centers. I don't care if it was 20 years ago. They'll try to help you however they best can.
And if you are overwhelmed, if you can't seem to find a center in your area, it happens. They tend to be in like bigger areas.
Desert.
So the Rape and Incest National Network, which is RAIN with 2 N's, it's the national database. They have a chat option if you don't want to physically speak about it, which is hard for some people. They have phone lines. They're open 24/7. You can talk. They can put you in touch and give you a heads up about the resources that are available to you in your area. It's kind of like an all-in-one. There's several different foundations. I'm trying to work on putting together a resource list that we can put in our video descriptions or on a website or whatever. Also, what we'd like to do is open up our email. It's just talkabouttraumatized@gmail.com. It's talk about trauma. It'll be in the video description.
Yeah, it's talkabouttraumatized@gmail.com.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it had podcast in it or not. And we just invite people to share their stories there too. It's not something that we have to share online. If you'd like us to, great. But from our experience, it helps to talk about it and to tell your story. Even if you don't put your name, even if you don't want it shared online, even if you don't want us to respond, writing it down helps.
It helps.
So that's an option too. If you don't want to go any other route, it helps kind of release that from having it pent up.
Yeah.
So
no, I completely agree. I am totally gonna writing it out, at least for me personally, was the first step I took towards
Mhm.
any sort of help.
Yeah.
And I mean, it took me on the longest journey. Literally, I think I talked about it already, but I wrote, like, I was raped and I don't think I'll ever say it out loud, because at
Uh-huh.
the time I physically did not think I could say it out loud, because it felt like if I would say it out loud, it felt like I would die. Like, it literally
Yeah.
felt like it would make it real in a way that I could not handle as a
Uh-huh.
person. And essentially writing it out just snowballed into me having to get help, having to reach out to
Uh-huh.
people, because once I wrote it out, I was like, oh shit, I'm fucked
Uh-huh.
up. Like, I am
Uh-huh.
fucked up. Like, somehow in all the actions and all the everything that was fucked up, I wasn't aware that I was fucked up until I wrote it out and was like,
Uh-huh.
holy cannoli.
No,
This
for
bitch
sure.
is fucking like losing it. And
That
I think it was also one of those moments where I realized it wasn't just my fault for losing it. Like, I was like, oh,
yeah.
there are like actually so many million different events that have literally snowballed
Mm-hmm.
to me getting to this point in my life. But it all started at the root of that trauma. And because I didn't get help, I kept operating. And within that operating, I was just fucking
Uh-huh.
making it worse and making it worse. But it was also all a part of my journey. And
Uh-huh.
I I do not feel shame or bad for that part of my journey.
No.
In fact, everything that happened led me to where I am today. Except being raped, I did not deserve that, nor should that have ever
No.
happened to me. I want to be
No.
very clear, that is not what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
But all those little micro moments after ultimately led me to getting the
Mm-hmm.
help I needed, ultimately led me to opening up about the things that helped me,
Uh-huh.
ultimately led me to realizing I want to help more people, and that my
Mm-hmm.
experience is so valid, and it is
Uh-huh.
right. It's a shared experience, just like the
Yeah.
girl's story we were talking
Uh-huh.
about. It is horrible and it sucks to go through. But my fucking God, the girl who didn't think she would talk about it 4 years ago, 3 years ago, won't shut the fuck up about it the rest of her fucking life, because it is like the only thing I
Yeah.
have that I know I can help people. Like, right?
Uh-huh.
I know the same way your story is going to help people, because we all sit in
Mm-hmm.
this, right? At the time, I thought nobody would understand. Like,
Uh-huh.
literally nobody would understand. And
Uh-huh.
then going to the center, I was like, holy shit, there are too many people who understand. There are
Mm-hmm.
too many people who aren't getting help, who aren't getting assistance, who have been through
Uh-huh.
horrible experiences all around sexual trauma. And that's why I think it is so important for us to share our stories, to openly discuss things about it, because I know there are people out there who are listening who are just thankful somebody is talking about it,
Uh-huh.
because we live in a culture where really, like, they try to make you not talk about it, and I'm a
Yeah.
bitch
Yeah.
that doesn't shut the fuck up. So good luck. Try me.
Yeah, I mean it is a huge sad club to be in, because like there's over 1,200 women or people, sorry, 1,200 people a day
Mm-hmm.
are sexually assaulted or raped in this country. That's just this country. Okay, that is one person every 68 seconds.
Yeah, it's
It's
bad.
awful. And those are just the reported ones.
Yeah,
Like we'll
it
never know
is
the accurate
awful.
numbers. We'll never know the accurate
It's way
numbers
higher than
because
that.
yeah.
It's unfortunately, it goes back to not educating women living in shame culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you shared it. It's as soon as the age of 6,
Yeah.
women start blaming themselves. I I look back at my own story
Uh-huh.
and my own journey as a child,
Uh-huh.
and I I know shame played a big role into it. I thought I would get in trouble, and then so much time passed that I thought it wasn't real,
Uh-huh.
until right at 11 years old you realize, oh, little girls don't dream about getting molested.
Yeah.
They
No.
don't. Like,
No.
that wasn't a dream. That was real.
Yeah.
And but that is also one of the most common coping mechanisms. If anybody
Mm-hmm.
does any research or tries to understand how children deal with sexual trauma, I told myself it was a dream. I told myself it was a dream for I don't know how long, until I remember distinctly being in health class,
Uh-huh.
learning what molestation is,
Uh-huh.
being like, huh, that happened to me.
Uh-huh.
And then years later, running into the person who did it to me, being like, oh, you did that to me. But
Uh-huh.
it still, I was so disconnected from the
Oh
realities
yeah.
of it. I was so disconnected, and it wasn't until I vividly relived that trauma that I was like, that did mess me up. It
Mm-hmm.
did. It most definitely did. So I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm just very greatly upset that children are dealing with it. I'm very upset that adults are dealing with it. I am
Yeah.
not a man hater. I'm a misogyny hater. Any man who is a misogynist, I'm gonna hate on you. Unfortunately, that is a large majority of you.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's funny the way that your mind protects you from things, right? Things
Mm-hmm.
that you can't handle. Because for me it's like I can remember the experience of the first time, but I have no idea the face. The face is blurred
Mm-hmm.
in my memories. Um, and it's self-protection. I know it is, like, because at this point I still can't quite handle whoever it was. Which makes it hard to trust anybody, right? Okay,
I
anyway.
know, it's so weird. It's literally so strange. But we were always fated to meet.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever
Yeah.
convince me
No.
otherwise.
He was cosmic.
It was cosmic. It If I could relive one day of that whole time in my life, it would be that day under the stars with you, Tiffany.
Uh-huh.
It would be. That was the most healing conversation I
Yeah.
had in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But to get back kind of on the subject where you were talking about how it's your family, how these are issues that occur in your family.
Yeah. And I
I
mean, yeah,
You go
it's
ahead.
like it's like I know every family kind of has things like that go on, but you never think about that when you're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I mean, until I was at least a teenager, I didn't know anybody else had gone through it.
Yeah.
But then you hear the details, and it's like it's the same person that keeps cropping up. And you're like, why didn't nobody do anything about this? I mean, people were told, adults were told, and um the people that did believe him just swept it under the rug. The mother of the person who did it, oh my god, could never happen. Not my son or my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I said too. So it's a sometimes a family thing because the saying the apple doesn't fall far from the tree is a thing for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and if
So
the behavior is being normalized, and not only
yeah.
normalized, but like
Uh-huh.
being denied, of
Mm-hmm.
course they're gonna keep doing it. They're getting
Yeah.
away with it.
Yeah.
It makes me think of one of my childhood best friends.
Mm-hmm.
We literally grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one day where we were drinking, and I don't remember what led to it. I don't know if they were just, like also going through their own thing. But she told me that the same thing happened to her, that a family member had
Yeah.
harmed her. And right, this is before I even went through all my stuff that
Mm-hmm.
happened. At the time, all I could say was me too. And it is one of those things that's so sad to know that this girl who I grew up with went through all these things, and I went through them too. And it took us getting drunk in our 20s
Mm-hmm.
for us to even be able to acknowledge that
Yeah.
it happened to us.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when it's like we grow up in such a shame culture, an
Mm-hmm.
exclusive culture, a misogynistic culture. We do not recognize the weight that it bears on women. Um, we are constantly being villainized in media. We are
Mm-hmm.
constantly being harassed and told that our experiences aren't valid and they're not
Mm-hmm.
true. But as women who talk to other women, we know that it's true,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Why is it that almost every woman I know has a story? In
Yeah.
fact, I can't think of one that I know who doesn't have a story.
No.
And we still have so many people who want to deny that this
Yeah.
is a problem in our country.
Uh-huh.
It drives me freaking nuts. It
Mm-hmm.
drives me nuts. It drives me insane to a degree that I can't even verbalize, because even now I watch people shame their daughters and not their son for
Uh-huh.
actions, and it
Mm-hmm.
enrages me in
Mm-hmm.
a way I cannot express, because I see the outcome, right? I
Mm-hmm.
see something happening to that daughter, and they not feel like they can open up because they've been shamed
Mm-hmm.
for so long. And it's just like, I don't know. I know it's my experiences that make me so vividly aware of it, but it's like I literally cannot comprehend how
Mm-hmm.
other people don't see it.
No.
I don't get it. I literally do not get it.
No. Um, there was something you said and I forgot to write it down,
I know
but
I
I'll
didn't
remember in a
remember
minute.
today. I was like, oh, it's just gonna be me and Tiff. I'm like, we got this. We can talk.
I know. I almost didn't, but then I was like, maybe I should.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I mean, oh, that's what it was. People that want to deny that it's a problem in this country. If you look at the percentages, um, of sexual assault and rapes in this country, like 19% of men and like 25% of women will have experienced sexual assault before the age of like 18.
Mm-hmm.
That's just before the age of 18.
Yeah.
And then the national averages for women are about the same. For men, it's like half that. But the amazing, not amazing, that's a horrible word for this. The interesting thing about that is that if you look at our national average and the global average takes into account war zones where there are mass rapes going on,
Mm-hmm.
like Sudan, the Congo, shit like that.
Yeah.
And our national average is on par with the global average of sexual assault, at least childhood sexual assault.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. And but it's
It
not an epidemic. It is 100% an epidemic in this country.
it is an epidemic. It there's so many things that play into it. It's the media.
Yeah.
It is our parents.
Mm-hmm.
It is the way we excuse bad behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Brock Turner, but oh my God, he's a good guy. He's on the swim team.
Yeah.
Shame that motherfucker. Shame him and lock
Mm-hmm.
him up and set a fucking president.
Yep.
Like, I don't
Yep.
care. I
Yeah.
literally don't care that he was on swim team. I don't give a flying fuck. Right? Why is that an excuse?
Oh, but what
Why
about his
does
future?
that somehow lessen what he did? Also, thank you to the men who saw it happening and did something, because that's the only reason the whole thing ever went to trial in the first place. Because
Yeah.
if she would have woke up the next day and reported it, she would have been denied. And the
Uh-huh.
only reason it was listened to is because men were talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, it kills me. It kills me to this day. Everything about the case is such, right? America.
Uh-huh.
This is America. Oh, but it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy, and I'm still gonna go back on the fact that like nothing probably would have ever even come from the case if a man was not
Uh-huh.
testifying on the behalf.
Uh-huh.
Man, I'm really ready to fucking fight today, man. I
I
woke up
know.
feeling beautiful and ready to go, and now I'm ready to fucking punch someone.
It's the subject.
It
You
is
know?
the subject, but it's important to talk about.
But yeah, the percentages are crazy. And like I said, that's just for childhood sexual assault. And like what I want to say on that is educate your children. Okay. We need sex ed as young as kindergarten. And I'm not talking about like you don't need to teach kindergartners about sex, like how to do sex, safe sex, whatever. Go ahead.
No, I really completely agree. Sorry, I'm not taking it off course, but I am just like following this up. So going back to shaming our bodies, shaming our experiences, all of this stuff. As a kid, right? And this goes back to educating people.
Yeah.
I went to daycare, and as my way of like self-soothing, and I'm talking like a young child, I used to like like hump or like whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how I used to fall asleep. Like, and my
Uh-huh.
daycare like freaked out about it. They were like, she
Uh-huh.
needs to stop doing this. She can't stop doing it, or like, right, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
fuck it is. When I go back to like why I have such a disconnect with my body, why when
Mm-hmm.
people did things to my body at a young age, I was so terrified to do anything.
Yeah.
I you There were years of my childhood where I used to get yeast infections. Tiffany, I never told an adult
Yeah.
because I was taught so much shame
Uh-huh.
around those areas of my body
Uh-huh.
when I'm talking at the young age. My son does it, right? My
Yeah.
son self soothes that way.
Yeah.
And it's not weird, it's not creepy, it's not sexual. It is
No.
literally self soothing. It is how he gets
Uh-huh.
himself to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And I can't. Oh, it drives me crazy. My fear is one day, like the daycare, literally, it's such a visceral fear for me. Is they're gonna be
Uh-huh.
like, we have to do something about this because I will take him out of daycare before
Mm-hmm.
I ever teach him to be ashamed of parts of his body, because
Yeah.
the ramifications to teaching a child shame
Uh-huh.
around certain parts of their body are way too fucking high to me.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't ever want him to not tell me when he's having problems or
Uh-huh.
when somebody is inappropriately touching him. Because
Uh-huh.
I was taught shame. I was
Uh-huh.
taught fear. And by the age of 2,
Mm-hmm.
like, right? I
Yeah.
cannot speak about it enough because it's like
Yeah.
the adults did not understand the future ramifications to that. They also did not understand, if you literally Google it today, why does my kid hump things when they're falling
Yeah.
asleep? It's self-soothing.
Mm-hmm.
It is normal.
Uh-huh.
It is a baby trying to get themselves to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And right, even now, like, I feel like there's people who are listening who are gonna be like, that's weird, that's weird. No, you were taught shame.
Yeah.
That's weird.
No.
You're weird.
Mm-hmm.
Correct yourself.
Uh-huh.
Like, viscerally look at the things that were taught to you and think, was this helpful or was this not helpful? And throw the shit that was not helpful out the fucking back door, because you are harming children with your shitty beliefs. And I understand that they were taught to you. They were ingrained in our society. But like I said, that's when you need to objectively look at things and ask yourself, was this something helpful that was taught to me? Or was this something built up around shame that was taught to me? Sorry.
That's okay.
In therapy this week, a big thing that like my therapist and I were talking about, that she was really talking about with me, is like a lot of people who are healing from trauma, when raising their children, find a lot of healing and growth because you get to reparent yourself in the process. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And she said, no, that's awful. Like, it's literally an awful experience to have to do that. But that is the only way you can find healing, is by doing for your child what you know should have gotten done for you. And I was like, man, like, I know you're right. Like, I know you're right. But it's like, it makes me so sad. But also, like, I am not shaming parents. We are literally, majority of us are doing the best that we fucking can with the best of our knowledge. I just happen to be a person who seeks out knowledge in plethora amounts, so I can constantly, like I said, take out the trash thoughts. I don't think enough people self-reflect on the things that were taught to them and recognize what isn't helpful, what wasn't good. Because there was so much, right? I'm not even shaming my parents. They were doing the best that they could. They did not know. I just happen to be the type of person that when I don't know, want to find out the answer, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to find out the answer, because all I can think about whenever I do anything with my son is the future impact. What is this ultimately teaching him? What are the possible ramifications? What are the good outcomes? What are the bad outcomes? I don't make decisions lightly, and I don't take actions lightly. Like, I know what I'm doing now can have future impact, and I am always trying to consider, like, right, why don't I yell at my child whenever he's doing something? Because I don't want him to fear me yelling at him, so him not coming to me in the future because he's scared of me yelling at him. I want to be an ultimately understanding person. So when things happen to him in the future, he's like, I can go to my mom because she will understand. It's so important to me. It is literally so important to me. I don't even know where I got on this tangent. I'm just so annoyed. I don't understand. I was talking about this in therapy, and my therapist is like, there's so many different attachment styles. There are so many different
Yeah.
things. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I comprehend that. I really comprehend that. But I don't understand how people cannot look at their current actions and not see a later result, or not even consider what this might actually be teaching my kid, instead of like, right? I know that we are looking for immediate results. We as people like immediate results, right? Your kid is doing
Mm-hmm.
something, you yell at them to stop them from doing that thing.
Uh-huh.
Why not discuss it with them? Why not redirect them? Why not do something else? Like,
I think it's just like it's it's a lack of knowledge, right? And it comes from generation things. So like as a parent, you tend to do what your parents did unless you have the knowledge to know, okay, maybe that's where that came from. That didn't work. I don't want to raise my kid like that. But unfortunately, not a lot of people are like us, or not enough people are like us, where they have the self-awareness to think that something is wrong and what can we do to not pass that forward. Because the field of psychology like is always growing and always changing. They're always finding out new information, and a lot of the information that we have now we didn't have when we
no,
were
we
growing
didn't.
up, or for our parents generation.
That's why I'm trying not to, like, right? When I say
Right.
all this, I am not
Uh-huh.
comparing my parents. I
Yeah,
know they were
no.
trying to do the best that they
Uh-huh.
can.
100%. Now you just have to say, at this point, what I say is that the knowledge is there.
It is
It's out
there.
there. And if you are going if you are a parent, then it sort of falls on you to find that information. You know what I mean? Like, and this isn't to shame anybody, everybody works with the
No.
tools that they have, but like, find it, like educate yourself, because
Or
ultimately
get
all
help
that's
for
going to be, yeah,
yourself too. Like,
yeah,
I can't, right? Chance was like 3 months old, and I could feel myself getting overwhelmed, and that
uh-huh,
overwhelmness led to anger, not at him. The
right,
anger
just
was not at
anger,
him,
uh-huh,
but I didn't want to be an angry mom. Does that
mm-mm.
make sense? It
Mm-hmm.
scared me. Don't get me
100%.
wrong, I know I was dealing with postpartum rage, the hormones, and all those things. But when I say it flew my ass to therapy, because I was like, I can't do this. I cannot be this type of mother. I don't want to be an angry mother. I don't want to, right? I'm like, I need to figure out what I'm lacking, what I need. I need to work through whatever the things are. It's a never ending journey. It's literally never
No.
ending. As my therapist always says, I will make mistakes. I will. The difference is I want to curate an environment with Chance that when I do something he doesn't like, because he's going to turn into whatever person he turns into, I have no
Yeah.
control of that,
Mm-hmm.
that he comes to me and he's like, Mom, I did not like this
Mm-hmm.
for XYZ reasons. Or if it's just, Mom, I did not like this, okay, like, let's figure out something new. But I just
Yeah.
want to curate the environment with my son where he feels like he can communicate to me, because
Uh-huh.
I am not perfect and I will make mistakes. God, I stress about it every
Mm-hmm.
single fucking day. But
No.
the only thing I can be in those situations is receptive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I always want feedback. Give me feedback. I don't want negative feedback, though. I can handle criticism. Don't just talk shit to talk shit, though. Then I
No.
mute you in my brain.
100%. It the thing about being an angry parent, though, it comes from, being a place of unhealed, like the unhealed version of
Yeah.
yourself. And when
That's why I'm like, get help.
yeah, no, before, okay, so up until a certain point in my life, like all I wanted out of life was to be a mom. Like that's
Mhm.
literally was like my singular goal. And then at some point in my 20s, I had my brother went through some stuff, and I had temporary custody of his two girls, and they were uh 12 and 11 when I got them, and it just made me realize how unhealed I was and how not ready I was to be a parent. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, obviously it's harder it's easier in ways and harder in ways. So it's easier than, becoming a mom the traditional way, because you don't have to go through like the sleepless nights and the not knowing what the kid wants, and just the hardships, because it is hard. The first few years are hard. So we don't have to go through that. But on the other hand, I had to sort of like deal with all of the upbringing that they'd already had. And so these were whole people when they came to me that I had no like hand in like shaping. And it was hard. And I was also very overwhelmed. And it just made me realize how unhealed I was. And like I only had them for a year. And I know that if I would have had them longer, I would have had to seek help sooner, because I was like, it started off fine, but then it got to the point where I was so overwhelmed, I was angry. And I didn't like who I was near the end of when I had them, because I didn't want to be that person. This is not the person that I am, but I was angry at a lot of things because I was unhealed and I was overwhelmed, and there were a lot of other things going on. So if you feel that when you don't want to be that way, get help.
Yes.
Like,
just get help, because you deserve to feel better.
Yeah.
Like, even take the children out of the equation. You deserve to feel better. When I say all this, I want to make it so viscerally clear. I'm not shaming moms. I'm not shaming you, because I understand. I literally understand. My point is, get help, because you deserve it. You deserve, right? It goes hand in hand. You felt so overwhelmed, it led to anger. That's what it was. Like, I felt so overwhelmed that it was making me angry. Yeah, angry is my innate reaction. Angry is my comfort reaction. I don't want to feel that way. I want to learn myself, be able to set enough boundaries, be able to, right? Be a person who can advocate for myself in a way that I don't get so overwhelmed I'm angry. Because I might never be able to change that default, right? It is my default reaction. Anger is my default. I feel comfortable in anger. I feel safe in anger. It is the only thing that allows me to, I feel like, express myself. I'm now learning other ways of expressing myself, but it won't change that default. It will never change that default. But it's more so like looking at the bigger picture and recognizing the ways in which I can change my environment that stop me from getting to that point. Like, recognizing I felt so out of touch with myself for so long, I couldn't even recognize the little things that were leading up to me ultimately getting there. But it goes back to just like, I am not shaming moms. When I say I've been there, I've been there. I'm trying to advocate to you and for you, so that if you are there, you can, like, there are other ways. There are things you can be doing that you deserve. You deserve to not be overwhelmed all the time. We have it, right? It goes back to the misogyny, right? Mothers have been portrayed as overwhelmed and overworked for literally however long, that like we just think that's how moms should be. Moms shouldn't be that way.
It's a stereotypical mom, right? You picture a mom, and she's messy hair and like, spit up and food on her clothes, and like she's tired as shit, got bags under her eyes, and that shouldn't be it. It shouldn't be it. Moms are people.
Systems. It comes back down to like support systems. And this is where it's hard, because we don't always have control over that. I had no control over my support system or the lack thereof. I did what I could do in that situation, which was then go get help, right? Because even that 1 hour of the week, those first few months, I was taking Chance with me to therapy. We went together, because I didn't have childcare and I didn't have somebody to watch him. Josh was working. There was no one else around locally that could help me or that I trusted to help me. So I took him with me. And we went to therapy together. We had a good time. Like, it just felt good to even have somebody to listen, right? Have somebody who could see my situation and talk me through it, talk with me about it. That's what I'm saying is, I don't, and I know I keep saying it, but it's because I really, really want moms to know I'm not shaming them. I just want them to be so viscerally aware that there is help and there's ways to get help, and it might not solve all your problems. It probably won't solve all your problems, but it will solve a little bit of your problems, which will lessen your load a little bit, which
Yeah.
will ultimately help you out a lot of bit.
Yes.
So yeah, and then the reason I raised my hand while you were talking though is because you were talking about how like it wasn't necessarily the same as having a newborn and stuff like that. But Tiff, you also went through the experience of having to learn the child, learn their needs, learn
Yeah.
their wants. That's literally exactly what a new
Yeah.
mother is doing. It
I did
is
have the advantage of them being able to talk, though.
it is an advantage, but you also had the disadvantage of them already having so many life
Yeah.
experiences that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily know either.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it was easier or harder. You were
It was
taking on
definitely
a
just.
parental role.
Hooray! I know
We
we're
had
talking about.
a big pause there for a minute, and now we're trying
Mhm.
to come back. But I think we were talking about motherhood, whatever. Regardless, get help if you need it. We love all mothers. We hope you're doing okay.
Uh-huh.
Is there any other subject material?
I had a note written down that just says sweet indulgence, anger all the time,
Oh yeah, talk
which
about
goes
it
back
because
to
you were angry. You
I
totally
was
told me about this.
I was so angry all the time. And I know, like, I doubt anybody from Sweet Indulgence is listening, but if you are, like, I know I've apologized to a lot of people independently, but just as like a blanket statement to any employees that work for Sweet Indulgence from, I can't even remember the years, but while I was the manager,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I was very unhealed. And like I was just talking to a guy that I used to work with from there. Well, both of the guys that I used to work with from there, and they were both like, don't be so hard on yourself. And I just wanted to put it out there that I'm not. Like I don't hold myself, well, not accountable, but I'm not berating myself for how I acted because I recognize that it was from a place of being unhealed. But that doesn't mean that I can't take accountability and like apologize for the shit that I did because I know that I made a lot of people's lives while they were at work horrible. But it was because I was unhealed and I was
Yeah.
angry all the time. And anger was it's the same. Like my Mars is an Aries or yeah. So like I have a quick trigger temper and it's always my first thing, no matter the feeling that I'm feeling, whether I'm hurt or whether I'm sad or whatever it is, like it's gonna come out as anger at first until I deal with whatever it is that I'm feeling. And I was just so unhappy and so angry and so unhealed during that entire time. Like I know I was awful. And it's one of those things that I felt like I was doing great at that job and I was good at that job. And if I had been a more healed version of my place, like it's one of the regrets that I have because I was killing it. But I also had no boundaries at the time and I was unhealed, and the no boundaries led to me working crazy freaking hours. Like, especially during the holidays, I would be there for like 80 hours a freaking week. Like Christmas time, I would go in at 5, maybe take a short break, and then yeah, and then be there until like 10 o'clock at night. So I don't know how that relates to what we're talking to, but it
Well,
just goes back to
sorry, I
no,
wasn't
that's
trying to
okay.
cut you off. That's why I
It's
paused.
okay.
I think a big part of that is feeling valued,
Yeah.
right? In a time where we did not feel valued, it felt very
Mm-hmm.
good to be valued, even if it
Yeah.
actually meant we were overworking,
Uh-huh.
under taking care of ourselves and things
Uh-huh.
like that. And then I was
Mm-hmm.
just going to also relate it back. My therapist, I know I talk about this a lot, but she really does help me and she gives me good insights. And she also repeatedly says things to me until I drill them into my big old head. Um, anger is my safe emotion
Yeah.
because I am able to defend myself when I'm angry.
Uh-huh.
When I'm sad, am unable to defend myself. I'm unable to advocate for myself. In fact, for me, I avoid sadness like the plague
Mm-hmm.
because it is the one emotion that completely immobilizes me. When I
Yeah.
am sad, I am not like, oh, I'm sad, let me just be sad. I am in oblivion. I don't know how else
Mm-hmm.
to describe it. I get to a place where I feel nothingness and I feel pointless. I guess for me, because the last time I was really, really sad, it was really just depression, right? It's really what I'm
Yeah.
describing as
Yeah.
depression, but
Uh-huh.
I avoid sadness right? I go to anger because it's easier for me to be angry than it is for me to be sad. Being
Yeah.
sad feels unproductive. I like to be productive, so I get angry instead. So
Uh-huh.
things that actually sadden me tend to actually make me angry because I am much safer and comfortable in that emotion. God, there was something literally just this last week. Oh yeah, I don't want to get into all that
Yeah.
yet, but literally when I'm like, I was actually sad, but I stuck to anger because it was the only thing, right? When I'm angry, I can do something about it. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad, I can do nothing about it. And
Yeah.
so that's why I think me and you both tend to go into anger. It's a trauma response
Uh-huh.
because it is the only thing that allows us to be active in our feelings.
That's
Whereas sadness, I think
100%.
both me and you very much, like when we get sad, become immobilized in our
Mm-hmm.
sadness because
Yeah.
we take things to all extremes. So
Uh-huh.
when we're angry, we can take it like really I
Yeah.
can ride that anger to the fucking dawn.
Yes.
Whereas
Bro,
when I'm
yeah.
sad, I can't do anything.
It's 100% accurate because um with the responsibilities that I had and the stuff that I was doing, I would not have been able to function if I would have let myself feel the sadness and depression that I was feeling. So it manifested as anger. And there's a lot of situations that I look back in my life where I definitely 100% overreacted to like some small infraction or whatever. And it comes back to that because I was so incredibly sad. But in the moments that I let myself feel sad, it's like I would feel it and it would be so overwhelming that I would automatically switch into like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like depersonalization.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you kind of just like feel outside of your body.
Me all the
Yeah.
time.
And so it's like I would be incredibly sad and I would be sobbing my freaking heart out and just be at a point where I just like, oh, didn't want to exist anymore. And then it would shut off because it's a self-defense thing, right? You get to that point where you're like, oh my God, I should do this. And you're like, your brain shuts off and you're like, no, don't do that. But it totally cuts off everything so that you don't feel that sadness. So I was always switching between being angry and feeling nothing. And like it just wasn't a healthy place in my life.
I feel that so strongly. I still, to this day, that that girl from 20 to like 23, 22, yeah, 23, I'd say 20 to 23. When I talk about it, I talk about her, not me.
Yeah.
Right? I can
Mm-hmm.
relate back to 18-year-old Natalie. That feels
Mm-hmm.
me. That feels safe to be me.
Yeah.
I, when I talk about that time in my life, can't not separate it because it goes back to that sadness. I'm so
Uh-huh.
scared of feeling that sadness again. And it's okay that I'm scared to feel it, right? Because I I'm the type of person where my memory might be not the greatest. Certain things go out the radar. I can't ever forget how things made me feel.
Mm-mm.
I cannot forget the way that feelings felt to me. I can't forget the way sadness feels. I can't forget the way anger feels. I
Mm-hmm.
can't moments where I was happy. I can still, when I reflect on them, feel that happiness, right?
Uh-huh.
I am very in tune to my emotions, way more so than I am in tune to just like in the moment, if that
Uh-huh.
makes sense. Like, I feel like I am a little enigma that feels things and I hold on so strongly to that feeling. And I don't think it's a good or bad thing. I think it's just who I am, right? I think it's the reason I'm so empathetic to other
Uh-huh.
people because when people talk about their feelings or how things made them feel, I can feel it, or at least I can relate them to a
Yeah.
time where I
When you
felt
felt
it,
it.
and
Uh-huh.
I feel it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's why I avoid sadness like the plague
Uh-huh.
because I remember
Uh-huh.
how it felt. I remember the debilitating things, and that doesn't mean that if I felt sadness again it would necessarily feel that way, but it feels that way to me. Like, I am just scared of that emotion. I will do anything to not feel sad, and I've tried to be really a lot better about this, especially with everything going on between me and Josh and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I feel moments of sadness, I really try to sit there and rest in that sadness, but I
Mm-hmm.
also try not to wallow in it, right? Like, I will get sad, I will cry, and then my big thing is I've been taking a lot of showers. I take
Yeah.
like 2 showers a day
Mm-hmm.
because I think it grounds me in a way that I can't even fully describe. It makes me feel better. I'll turn on music that makes me not wallow, because that was also a big thing is when I was sad before, I only listened to sad music because it made me more
Uh-huh.
sad. And now I try to like listen to things that don't just make me sad,
Uh-huh.
especially when I'm feeling sad, but I'm also ready to not feel sad anymore. I'm like, let me try to play some music or something
Yeah.
that'll lift me up.
That is 100%. So I was looking at some techniques that we could share, like on this social media. I just bit my tongue. Ow.
Ow.
Like on the social media pages, about techniques that can kind of bring you out of when you're feeling triggered or whatever. And listening to like your favorite music is top of it, you know, just things that sort of inspire a different feeling than what you're feeling at the moment. Um, Also, just real quick,
Mhm.
I heard this saying when I was young, and it's always sort of resonated because it's very good advice. And basically, it's just that you can feel what you feel. It's okay to feel what you feel, but don't unpack your luggage and live there. And basically, it just goes back to wallowing. Like
Mhm.
you can feel them. It's healthy to sit with your anger, sit with your sadness, or whatever, sit with your grief, whatever you're feeling. But when you get comfortable there and you unpack your luggage and you live there, that's when it becomes a problem. So I have this habit of forgetting, losing my train of thought when I'm in the middle of a sentence.
Me
But
too.
basically, that's what it comes down to. Like, feel your feelings. That's healthy, but don't sit there and wallow for too long. Like, I mean, you could probably even like set a timer or whatever where you just sit and
Yeah.
feel whatever you're feeling. And then when that timer's up, you're like, okay, we're done with this feeling. Let's move on with our day or whatever. Actually, that is a tool that some people recommend, like therapists recommend for that
Mhm.
sort of situation, because timers sort of like, okay, we're done feeling sad for now. Let's move on to whatever else we're doing.
Yeah. And like part of that, I know I talked about like what I do is take a shower, put
Uh
on
huh.
music, go put your feet on the ground.
Oh,
Go to
grounding. Yes.
yes, like right? A lot of people I think are stuck in the I don't know how to not do that. At least for me, for a really long time, I didn't know
Yeah.
how. Number one, go to therapy, because talking it out, right? If you're
Yeah.
not talking it out, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you can take yourself out of the emotion. The reason I couldn't
Uh.
during that time of my life take myself out of those feelings because I wasn't talking about them,
Uh huh.
right? How were they ever supposed to leave me if they were literally living in me?
Uh huh.
So talking about things, I think, is step one. Whether it be a friend, a partner, a stranger on the internet, our email is underneath.
Uh huh.
Therapy, if you can. We recognize it's not accessible to everyone. We are trying to make sure we find as
Yeah.
many resources as we
Uh
can to
huh.
give you guys. But first thing, talk about it. Once you're talking about it, like I said, go put your feet in the ground, go open a book, listen to a book, go watch a stupid YouTube video, go play music.
Mm-hmm.
My therapist literally sent me a like list of 100 self-care
Uh
activities
huh.
yesterday, because I was telling her, because I was also falling into like the dissociating, the doom scrolling this last week
Same.
and stuff, because I
Yeah.
felt so
Uh huh.
overwhelmed. And I told her, I was like, I just take so many showers. And she's like, that's good. Here's some more things you can do, right? I have a puzzle that I like to work on that I haven't been working on. Just things, right? Dissociating and doom scrolling aren't helping you. They aren't helping you take yourself out of that feeling. They're just helping you to dissociate even
Mm-hmm.
more. It's okay to do those things, right? If that's all you can do, if your mental health is at a point, I'm also not shaming you for doing that. I'm
Yeah.
saying I
No.
do it too.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can, if you can, go take the shower, go put your feet on the ground, go kiss a dog, go find a cat, right?
Uh huh.
Go to a shelter just to see them,
Uh huh.
right? There there are things we can be doing, and they're so hard to do, especially when that we're in that space, but I also think that's when it's most important to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's all I had to say about that.
So taking a shower is good. It's great actually. So one of the things that happens when we get overwhelmed and stressed or whatever is our cortisol levels rise. It's the stress hormone. It causes so many health issues, like heart problems, inflammation, all this sort of things. Grounding, even for as little as 5 minutes, touching your bare feet to the ground will help lower those cortisol levels. Cool showers also help to regulate your cortisol levels. So if you're going to take a shower, I know I like my showers really super freaking hot, but if you want to lower your cortisol levels even more, then just lower the temperature of your shower a little bit, and it'll help to regulate those cortisol levels, and it'll help with overwhelming and the stress and all of that too.
There was like a day, this was probably like 2 weeks ago at this point, maybe just like a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know exactly what it was that sent me over the edge. Obviously, I've had a lot going on in my personal life lately.
Uh-huh.
And so I think it was just like the feelings were getting the best of me. I
Mm-hmm.
literally stood in that shower, Tiffany, and I was like going back and forth, right? Like I would make it super cold and I would stand under there until I couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
And then I would make it hot again, and then my body would feel relaxed. And once I got to that relaxed point, I made it cold. And in that moment, I didn't even know why I was doing it. I could just tell it was making me feel
Mm-hmm.
better. And I'm not a cold shower girly. I am
Me neither.
not. Bless the people who can be. But in that moment, it felt so good. Like it
Mm-hmm.
literally felt so good. And I haven't had the feeling or the inclination to do it again since. It was really like in that moment, I think I was so sad. It was just helping me.
Uh-huh.
I do, however, I was gonna say we should probably be wrapping up soon.
Yeah.
We're 2 hours deep. I know we got some things to cut out of it.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
I was gonna pull up a grounding exercise to read if we wanted
Yeah.
to do that. And the other thing when you were talking about like listening to songs and stuff like that,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
if I am able to like put even like a 10-second clip of it into here or whatever, or if it's on TikTok, I'll put the sound bites over things. Sunshine Song by Jason Mraz.
Would you mind if I took some time to soak up your light? You're beautiful like you've got a paradise inside. I get hungry for love and thirsty for life and much too full on the pain. When I look to the sky to help me, and sometimes it looks like rain. As the sun shines on other people's houses and not mine.
Whenever I am feeling the saddest, the most overwhelmed, the most anything, I listen to that song and it makes me feel optimistic.
It would be a Jason Mraz song. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it is. Tiff, I don't know if you've ever heard it because this is actually a recent thing I started doing after Chance was born. It was almost like I rediscovered the song because I had heard it before, but it had never meant as much to me as it did until it did. And it was because I realized, I was like, I feel better after listening to this song. Anytime I even see somebody, there was like a few months ago, this person had made a post and I thought they were feeling suicide-y. Turns out they weren't. They just had other things going on in their life. But obviously, I get concerned about these things. I messaged them. I was like, "Hey, just listen to this song if you have a moment. Like, I promise it's gonna be okay. I'm here to listen." But I was just me as a person who has dealt with suicide ideations. I try to, if I see it, respond, because I think the worst thing I could be doing is ignore it, because that's what most people do. That's literally what our innate reaction is. And as somebody who tries to be an ally and tries to be an advocate, and as if I just see anything, I try to just be like, hey, I'm here if you need to speak. And I'm not always good at answering my phone, but in those moments I will make sure I'm responding to you.
Yep.
And so, yeah, my last little note, if nobody has listened to Sunshine Song today by Jason Mraz, you should. And you should really feel the words, because the whole thing is about how kindness is really key to making yourself feel better. And I love it so much. It makes me feel like sunshines and sun rays are being shed on me, even if there's no sun outside. So we're going to do a grounding exercise.
Okay.
I would like if you did it with us, whoever is listening. This one is a little bit different than like the one Gigi did. So the first thing, so this is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. Have you seen it before?
Yep.
So the first thing we're going to do is list 5 things that we can see right now. I'll go first since I'm already talking. We have a tarp outside that should be on our roof that is waving around right on our porch. I've been watching it for a minute. I see Rosie. I see Lily. I see Tiffany. I see the couch with a bunch of stuff on it.
Okay. I see the backyard from where I am, so I can see our grill. I can see my water cup. The my coffee cup as well. Is that 3, 4? Also, I see the hawk that hangs out in our backyard while I'm filming, and it's
hawk.
Yeah, he's big.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
The next one is name 4 things you can hear, which is why I took back my
headphone.
Thank you. Headphones. The first thing I can hear is myself. I can hear myself through the mic in the headphones. I can also hear you, Tiffany. I can hear our fans going. And then we also have our fan on the microwave going, and I can hear that too.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear my ceiling fan. I can hear the dogs walking around outside the room, their little tick, tick, ticks. I can hear Natalie, and I can hear myself.
Perfect. 3 things you can feel. I can feel my shirt on my body. I can feel the bed underneath my legs, and I can feel the earrings in my ears.
Okay. I can feel the air from the ceiling fan. I can feel the wood from the desk under my fingers, and I can feel the seat of my desk chair.
Yeah. The next one is 2 things you can smell. I can smell Rosie because she's a little stinker. And I can smell myself because, unfortunately, I forgot to put on deodorant before starting this. No one is around. I'll take another shower after this.
Happens. I can smell the little bit of coffee that's still in the bottom of my cup, and I can smell the vanilla candle that I lit before we started filming.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's delicious.
And then the last thing is name 1 thing you can taste. And it was funny because I don't know if this is like an actual taste, but when I read it, I went and I like licked my little piercing right here, and I'm like, I can taste the metal. Like,
yeah,
I can.
Metallic. I can taste the remnants of the vape that I hit while we were on break.
No, those are good.
Yeah.
So this is actually a grounding exercise my therapist done with me like once before. It's literally the first thing that popped up when I looked up grounding exercises. It says the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise, and I think this one is really important, especially when you're having like an anxiety attack.
That's what I was gonna say.
It is very grounding because it brings you back to your surroundings. So it takes you from overshooting in your head to being aware of the things around you, and it's a good way to calm that down. So
yeah, it's one of my go-to like emergency, really high anxiety ones. It is very helpful because it just brings you back into the present and helps you be mindful about what's happening in the moment and not be in your head about what it is that you're anxious about. Yeah,
and even if you can't follow the rules exactly, listing things off that you can feel, hear, smell, and see are always going to bring you back to your surroundings. So I highly recommend it. I think that is it for episode 3.
Yeah.
I guess that was 6 technically. 3 of the Talk About Traumatized podcast. We will be back with you next Thursday, and then hopefully after next Thursday's episode, we should have the big group of us back together too. I think that's when the schedules will be a little bit more cohesive.
And you'll get all 4 of us.
All 4 of us.
I don't know why I'm in a singy mood today.
I kind of am too. It's the music we were listening to before. So yeah, don't forget to comment. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. It helps more than us. It helps the people around you as well. We love you all. We wish you happy, healthy, and what was the other one? There were 3 H's. Happy, healthy, and healing energy for the rest of the week.